Sorry about this. My screen is messed up. All right, that's gonna have to do. So, welcome everybody on November 16th, 2022. Getting close to Thanksgiving, and I don't know about y'all, but I am just not ready for winter, and it's a little too cold for me. So, we're going to talk today about talking to the dead. And this is all coming from my book, Between Earth and Heaven, A Beginner's Guide to Living a Spiritual Life, which you can get on Amazon. All right. So, every month I've been coming on and talking about different things that pertain to the book. And talking to the dead is a topic all the time when people, do you see the deceased when they come over? Do you feel them? What is that like? And I will tell you, mediums see them in different ways, and I see spirits in different ways. So sometimes I will physically see a spirit in front of me. They look like they're really kind of pixelated and not solid like a human being. Most of the time, though, I just sense their energy. And they will come through for me anyway. And like I said, this is different for everybody. That I will see mom's side of the family over here, dad's side of the family over here. And so it'd be parents right here, grandparents, great grandparents, and then there's aunts and uncles out to the side. And then in front would be friends, spouses, and children. That's typically how that shows up for me. And again, it's if spirit behaves, and they don't always behave. They'll show up exactly where they want to. But typically, I will see that energy just the way I describe it is in a hot July summer, driving down an asphalt highway and you get those heat waves. That's what I'll see. And it depends on where I see that heat wave coming from. And I'll know that's like, okay, that's a father, placement of a father. That's the placement of a grandfather. That's how I see it. And again, if they're listening, if they behave, that's how they typically will come through to me. With my eyes, then they will start sending me energy of what they were like, their energy, their personality was like when they were in human form. And I'm mostly clairvoyant, so I will see pictures in my head. So I don't see with my eyes, I see with my head when it comes to this part of it. And they might send me a cactus, and that tells me, oof, they were a little prickly there. They might send me a big overstuffed chair, and I go, oh, they were really a soft place to lay in, a soft personality. And they will give me that energy of what they were like, because on the other side, there really is nothing but love. And so every single one of them could come through going, I love you, I'm proud of you. But most people want things that are a little bit more specific than that. So I will telepathically ask questions, and then they will show me things. And sometimes they answer my questions, sometimes they don't. And probably one of the most common that they don't answer is, how was your passing? And they're like, doesn't matter. And I'll get like somebody shrugging their shoulders. And so it's really interesting because they will come through with their personality. Sometimes there'll be like a grandfather figure that just stands there and won't talk to me. And I can interpret that picture that, oh, he was a strong, silent type. And usually that's yes. Or it could be that they're not quite sure how to come through. So they're just, standing and staring for a little bit and not quite knowing how to communicate as yet. But then once we identify, I get the energy of what their personality was like when they were here in human form. Then, we start getting more specifics with messages that they have for the deceased or the loved one that they're coming through for. But in the end, it's always messages of love. Always. They'll say, well, they didn't have a loving bone in their body. And it's like, well, they don't have their body anymore. They are spirit and they are love. Now, that being said, excuse me, there are different levels in heaven. Everybody goes to heaven. And one of the biggest questions I get with usually elderly people that aren't quite as aware. So if someone is gay that has passed, they go, oh, are they in heaven? Because they're so worried about this lifestyle. And, is God going to judge them? It's like, no, there's hell on earth. And thank you, you were part of that for them by judging them. Because everybody goes to heaven. Now, that being said, people who murder other people who have got sociopathic personalities, they vibrate at a much lower level. So there are levels to heaven. And, the people that are like, oh, he was a saint, so she was an angel on earth, they're vibrating at a high level. And so the people, we'll use Hitler as an example. He would be a very low vibrating spirit that really wouldn't be able to connect to some of those high vibrating. But there really is no judgment. On the other side, it is the soul trying to evolve, period. And they judge themselves. Did I do what I came to earth to do? And so that's what talking to the dead is really like. It's a lot of it is interpretation. Because I always say the information I get is correct. It's whether I can translate the picture I'm seeing with the pictures that they send in the head. Because like one time they just sent me a big stalk of corn. Okay, how do I interpret that? Were they a farmer? Did they like corn? Were they allergic to corn? And you've just kind of got to work your way through it with the picture that they're sending. And sometimes they're clear as a bell. So, how they communicate on earth can be very similar with how they communicate from heaven. And sometimes they're crystal clear and I get it. And other times it's just fuzzy, it's murky. One of the most interesting and yet consistent things that I get with talking to the dead are suicides. And again, people come, they're just so heartbroken because this is so sudden for everybody. There's no such thing as, lingering. A suicide is just, boom. And typically when a suicide comes through, and again, not always, they will back up and come into me just kind of. And when I see their back rather than their face, that's a sign that it was probably a suicide or that they were taking responsibility for their own passing in some way. So again, it's these things that you start to see over and over and over again that start to make sense. And I start putting those puzzle pieces together. So the consistent thing that I see with suicides is almost always, I'm not sorry I did what I did. I'm sorry for the pain it caused everybody else. And that has happened with everybody, but 2 suicides that have come through that were very different from that. But that is the consistent message. It's just, I wasn't accomplishing what I came here to accomplish. My life was so filled with pain, and I really didn't see any way out. So I decided to take my own life. And I know I've got to come back. I know I've got to try it again, but maybe I'll design this life a little bit differently, make it a little bit easier than this one. Because, they can control their own self, but they can't control anybody else. And so they might have set up lessons to learn with people that, okay, you're going to be the bad guy and you're going to set me up for this. But thinking it's going to be to just a certain degree, and that other person might be going, oh, okay, well, you want some trouble? I'll give you some trouble. And there it goes. But, consistently, it's like, I had no idea how loved I was. I had no idea how far reaching my energy was. And I want people to really understand that, because when a suicide happens, it doesn't happen to just the immediate family. It happens to every member of the family. It happens to friends of the family. It happens to friends of the family. And it can affect an entire township. Especially when you're talking some of the smaller towns that are out there and there's a suicide, the energy of the entire town is affected, let alone the energy of all the people living in that town. So I want to tell you, for anybody who is contemplating suicide, it really, it might be a temporary answer, but I want you to know, whether other people show it to you or not, that you are loved. And you are loved so deeply from the other side. They want you to succeed. They want you to stay. And as hard as it is right now, tomorrow might be better, or next year might be better. You might have to hang in there a while longer. But you are loved, and you have a huge crew of people on the other side that are just rooting for you, helping. Your job is to listen and ask questions of your guides, of your angels. Trust that they're there and ask them for help. I mean, there are times when I don't say I need help. I'm shaking my fist going, what does it take? What does it take to survive in this world? Because it's hard. It is hard. So I just want to be really clear with that, with suicides, that there's no judgment on it. There's no hell. There's no anything other than the same love that everybody else gets when they cross over. It's, you tried, you did your best, and it just got the better of you. And so we love you. We're going to help your soul heal, and that we're going to help you design a life that might be a little bit more palatable, a little bit easier for you to come through. So I want those that are friends and relatives of someone who has committed suicide. It is so much harder on those left behind than those that have committed suicide. And you need to understand that they were in pain. And if someone is going to commit suicide, there's nothing you can do. Because I also deal with people who have a lot of guilt. And I should have done something. I should have seen something. Oh my God, why didn't I do this? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. And if they're going to commit suicide, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And so I want survivors to quit carrying that guilt. Let that go, because guilt is also a very low vibrating energy. And you don't want to carry that around with you. You want to send them on their way with love and light and blessings, that next time around, it'll be a little bit easier for them. I hope that makes sense. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, what do people do on the other side? Because I was raised in the Lutheran church thinking that we all rode around on clouds with the little cherubs playing harps. And the whole time it's just like, oh my gosh, that just sounds so boring. I don't want to float around on a cloud and play a harp. Eek. And what I've been told from those on the other side that do come through to me is, it's very much like here on earth, you just don't have a body. And many of them have a really well-developed sense of humor. I've had a lady come through that she goes, oh, I'm helping young children pass over. And she is there to, extend a hand and guide them over to the other side. I've had teachers. I've had sports people. I've had, one guy, he came through riding on a motorcycle, just, and he said, I can drive as reckless and be as reckless. I don't have to wear a helmet, because what am I going to do? Die? And just started laughing and took off on his motorcycle. So it's very much like Earth, only there's no fear attached to it, like there is here on Earth. And you can do, there are jobs to do, just like there are here on Earth. They still have all of that stuff. It's just energy. It's just not in a body form. That's all. So whatever. Oh, and I have lots of teachers come through, which is just fascinating. And the way they show that to me is, they'll show up with their hands like this, and there'll be a book in a hand. It's like, oh, well, they must have been a teacher. And they love doing that. And I see so much with children on the other side. And it's, typically adults that loved raising children, love being with children, teachers, and they are teaching the little ones who have gained their wings, I guess you could call it that. So it's fascinating. And so I also work with a lot of people that want to develop their intuition. They want to develop their ability for mediumship. And I heard this from a client, actually not too long ago, maybe just a month ago, and I thought it was brilliant. So I want to pass it on to you, is that go through the obituaries and don't look at any of the information other than a name. And when you get that name, write it down, and then try to tune into that name and get as much information as you can, what's coming to you, and whether it's crazy as it sounds. And then you want to ask the questions. How did you pass? How old were you? Who was left behind? Were there any strange circumstances attached to your passing? And then you can go back and read the obituary and see if anything or what does match up. And that's a beautiful way to practice. So I thank you, Michelle, for that. She knows who she is. And other ways to practice psychic ability is just sometimes watch some of the murder mystery shows on TV and see if, as close to the beginning of the show as you can, figure out who done it. And that's a really good way to practice. Another thing that I like to do is listen to some psychic mediums on YouTube. And all of this stuff is free. And there's one in particular that I listen to, and he's called Sterling Psychic Medium. And people will send in questions to him, and he'll read the question, and I will try to tune into the same answer that he's going to give. And I would say 90% of the time I get the same information. He gets more detail than I tend to get. But I would recommend things like that. So if you've got a favorite psychic that people send in questions, follow them and see if you can get the answer before they do. Those are good ways to practice to develop your psychic ability and your mediumship. All right, so that's all I got today, except for I did a 3-card pull for y'all. And this is from the Angel Tarot deck. And it's Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine. Now, Doreen doesn't do tarot cards anymore. So if you're interested in that deck, it's just Radley Valentine on that. And these are the Angel Tarot cards. So we have got card number 1, card number 2, and card number 3. So tap into your guides, and which one is for you? Don't think about it too long. It needs to be usually the first one that pops into your head. All right. So here is card number 1, which is the 7 of air. And air has to do with intellect. What's going on in your head? What's going on in your mind? And this is plans that need revision. More going on than meets the eye, poor timing. So if you're trying to push through on something, it's just like, this has got to get done. I got to do this. It's like, no, stop, take a step back, because this is poor timing on this project. Because if it's supposed to happen, you'll be in the flow and things will come a little bit easier for you. And it'll be like the coincidences happen, the synchronicities. That's what you want to have happen. So if you're struggling against something and trying to get something done, or I've just heard someone is, I'm trying to get somebody to listen to me, to pay attention to me. If you're trying that hard, step back. So revise some of these plans, revise the timing on it, and think twice about it. All right, the second card, if you pick number 2, is the Queen of Earth. Earth has to do with material things. So that would be the house you live in, the car you drive, the food you eat, things to sustain yourself as a human being on this planet. So the Queen and Queens are always fabulous cards. So this one is make time for those around you, take a sensible approach, deal with challenges in a kind and understanding manner. And I'm actually getting, with the holidays coming up, Thanksgiving, that something, we work so hard. Oh, I have to back up for just a minute, because I read something, and I teach it in a class of mine, that we spend more time planning Thanksgiving dinner than we do planning our own lives. That one hurt. And it's true. So as you're planning your Thanksgiving dinner this time, just try to take the stress off and make it as simple as possible. It doesn't have to be elaborate. You're the queen. You can dictate this. So, but do make time for those around you, not necessarily the meal, but the people. Because you spend, a day cooking, 20 minutes, it's gone, and then you spend 2 hours cleaning up. That it will take care of itself. Sit down and enjoy the people that are with you, and just, be kind. Be kind to them, because everybody's stressed right now. And, we're just in a really weird place as a planet. It is getting better, I hope. And, but it takes people like us to lead by example. And I'm going to be happy. I choose to be happy. No matter what's going on around me, I'm calm in my head. And if we can do that, everybody else will start to follow suit. You lead by example. You don't have to force anybody. You don't have to teach anybody. Just do it yourself. And people will go, that's interesting. Why is he, she so happy? I want a piece of that. And they'll start asking questions, or they'll start leading their own lives and realize what it takes to make them happy. All right, number 3 is the King of Air. So we are back to intellect again. And this is speak your mind with confidence. Seek out professional advice, balance mental and emotional considerations. This one, I work with a lot of people, because many of us were raised to not speak our truth. And so when I start working with people and say, let's clear that throat chakra so you can speak your truth, I feel it tighten up a little bit, because people think speaking your truth is speaking your truth. And that's not it at all. That's arrogance. And speaking your truth is quiet and clear. That works for me. That doesn't. Thank you so much, but no, I'm going to pass. That's speaking your truth, not that's just plain arrogance. So I want you to understand the difference, because there's a huge difference, and we get confused from the programming that we've received from the time we were little people. Your truth matters. You're not meant to be like anybody else. You didn't come here to be like anybody else. You came here to be you. And again, one of my favorite quotes is, be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. And just know that we live in a judgmental society right now, and you're going to be judged whether you're acting like somebody else or you're acting like you. So might as well be you. It's a whole lot easier to be you for sure. And to seek out professional advice. And that's if you don't know how to be, who am I? What does that look like? Or how do I get past the trauma in my life? Seek professional advice. And whether that's with a trusted psychic medium or whether it's with a therapist, a counselor, a psychiatrist, you'll know, trust what's right for you and seek it out. They will help you get unstuck. They'll help you get on the right direction to be you. And if there's somebody that their ultimate goal isn't for your peace of mind and your freedom, they're the wrong person for you. Because there's plenty of people out there that want devotees, and I want them to need me. I want them. And you say, no, that's not a good intent to have at all. I'm going to work with you as long as we need. However, the ultimate goal is for you to stand on your own 2 feet, trust yourself, connect to your guides, step into your own power in the most beautiful way possible. That's the king of air. So balance, it says balance mental and emotional considerations. I always say everything is body, mind, and spirit. So you have to have a balance in your spirit, in your mind, and your body. Those always work together in all things, in all ways. So I hope these cards were helpful for you. I love this deck. It's amazing. You can get it at, I think, most of your metaphysical stores, or you can get it online. And I want to take a peek and see what we're going to talk about next month. We're going to talk about out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, astral travel, and life reviews. We're going to cram all that into about half an hour. So I thank you so much. Everybody have a very happy Thanksgiving. Spend time with those you love. And don't worry about the food. It'll happen. All right. Ciao.